this is Chris Petri. Welcome. We're doing another fun video. We're going to do some stone facade materials. You can kind of see here on my phone, I have some photographs. We're going to work from some photographs here today when we're doing this beautiful composition here on some stone materials. You're going to run into this when you're doing some beautiful, maybe some countryside paintings with like stone barns and things like that, stone structures. Maybe you're doing some city scenes, some cityscapes, where you're going to be doing street scenes, things like that. You might find beautiful buildings out in the cities that are going to have stone facade materials. So this is just a great video. We're going to get started right now in just a second. We'll maybe just lay out a few little areas here. We're going to do some swatches, some stone facade material swatches, and we're going to have a great time doing it. We're going to use plenty of colors. I'll break out my Fisker's template here. We'll do some rectangles. So maybe what I'll do is I'll kind of look at this and say, all right, let me see how this works out with. So if that's there, so if that's about right there, so if I put my pencil there and I move this up to there, yeah, that's about right. All right, so we're going to do 3. Maybe we can do a larger one like this. 1. Let's see, where does this one land about? Here. That one there might be a little bit, let's do smaller. Let's do these 3 small ones here. Smaller, I should say, rectangles. It'll give us a little more room, a little more breathing room. So let's do 1. And then we'll come over here and we'll do another one here. We'll flip this over this way. And then before I make too much of a problem here with some, let's just take this, cover this with a paper towel, and we'll continue on here. So we have this size here. We'll come over here. We'll do another one over here, like this. So I'm just making some rectangles. You can pencil these in. I'll give you the measurement if you need. So if you just want to do these by hand and you don't have a template, not a problem. You don't even need a template really. I have one in my studio. That's why I use it. You know, I don't. I try to just, you know, if I have some extra things around the studio, I'll try to incorporate them into my my video here. So this is 2 inches by probably 3, I bet. I'll spin my ruler around this way. And yes, 3.5. So this is 2 inches by 3.5 inches. So these are 2 by 3.5 inch rectangles. And that's all we have to do is remember that. We'll do the last one up here. We'll do like 3. So we'll do one up here like so. Like that. And we'll get that in like so. Okay. This just makes it quick and easy if you want to do some swatches. If you have a couple of templates in your studio, in your place where you work, whatever it is. If you have a stack tray or, you know, you have one of those desks you work at, you know, and you got your drawers and your file cabinets, you can stow one of these in there. They're great to have. Templates are always fun to use. And so we have that. So now we have our 3 rectangles. Perfect. And you know what? Let's even go a little bit of a notch above. Let's do some tape around them. This way we keep our swatch really neat and organized. I think that's good. So I'll put this one here. Tape here. Don't mind my taping here. I don't know if it's going to come out perfect. Okay, one there. I think we'll do one up here. So I'm just going to basically try to cover around the, I'm going to try to cover around the rectangle, like that. I'll take another smaller piece here and go over here like this. So this way when we're done with our composition, we can just lift up the tape and we'll have a beautiful, crisp, clean border around our swatches, our compositions, our stone facade material compositions. And maybe I'll use some thinner tape. I usually buy drafting tape, and I buy it like 1 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch. This is probably 3/8 inch, I think maybe. So I buy different sizes of tapes, and it comes in handy. And so we'll find the end of it here. Eventually, there we go. And I'll go across here just to kind of fill in that little bit of a space there, like that. Okay, so we're moving right along here. And how about this here? Perfect. That that. Doesn't need any trimming or anything. There we go. Perfect. There we go. And then we're going to do another one down here, like so. That one worked out good there. And then we have one more over here, like that. So you can just see I'm just taping around, nothing, you know, not rocket science here. We're just doing some taping around our rectangles. This way, again, when we're done with this composition of doing 3 different swatches of beautiful stone facade materials, which you will incorporate eventually somewhere along the line, you're going to do like a street scene, a city scene. You're going to do like with stonework, with buildings, beautiful stone buildings, churches and synagogues and all kinds of interesting religious buildings, or a lot of times beautiful stone facade materials. You never know. You're going to be doing a landscape scene where you're doing like a barn out in the countryside and there's some stone on the barns. There might be a little stone building next to the barn. So you're going to have stone materials always kind of showing up in your artwork when you're doing paintings, whether you're out in the field painting and you're on vacation out there doing some paintings and painting from, plein air painting right out in the outdoors, sitting down and sitting in front of a scene, or maybe if you're looking through pictures, old pictures of vacation pictures, or if you're using the internet and you're looking up photographs of any kind of scenes you want to, you will run into beautiful facade materials like this, stone materials. So let's do a few, kind of get the hang of it. Once we're done, we can take this and put this in a folder, and we'll save it. And this way, next time we're doing a video, a painting that needs some facade materials like stonework, we can look at these and reference them and say, you know what? Even though the stone material I'm seeing in this photograph or in this book that I'm looking at, or whatever it is, or an old photograph from vacation, whatever it is, you can just look at it and say, okay, well, maybe it's similar to this one here, or this one, or this one. So you pick out which one you think it's going to look closest to, and you use the one that you've already created, and you kind of use that as your guide as to, finishing up your painting and getting your, really good looking stone material that you want on your structure. If you're doing, again, like anything like a city scene, a building, a barn, anything like that. So there's our stone facade material right there. This is like a rubble type stone. We'll call that a rubble. We'll call this a rubble stone. So maybe we'll start out with this one down here, and we'll just call this rubble stone. And that looks good. Then we're going to get our pencil, and we'll just start kind of trying to get some shapes in here. We'll use something similar to this. I'm a mason by trade. That's my construction trade that I started in many, many years ago. So this is very familiar to me, doing stonework. I used to do stonework. So I'm going to use this general idea of this photograph, but I will change it just a little bit. But we'll get the same idea of this type of stonework. You have a few really, really large pieces of stone like this, the larger shapes. Then you have a few medium-sized pieces you'll kind of see in there. And then you'll have quite a few smaller pieces of stonework. So they kind of mix this bit of material around to kind of have a nice, pleasant kind of effect. You have mostly small stones. Then you have, a decent amount of medium-sized stones. And then you only have a few larger, really, really large stones. So that's kind of a mixing that's like a pleasant ratio of stones. A few really, really large stones, a number of medium-sized stones, and a lot of smaller stones. We might change that around a little bit. I think we're going to do maybe more larger stones and then mix up the small and medium size. Let's try it out. So we'll go down here, maybe right in the left-hand corner. I'm going to make a really large stone there, like so. I'll just press down my tape, make sure all my tape is pressed down really good, so then when we start painting, it doesn't leak under the tape. There we go. So that's pretty good. So now we're down here. I'll lift this up maybe. Well, while we're drawing here, we don't need the paint. So we'll go with a smaller size there. Smaller size here, smaller size here. Like this, like that. Okay, I'm going to do the larger size stones like this with a few medium and small size stones. Like that. So here I'm going with a little more of the larger stones, but then I'm doing the other mediums and smalls too as well. Okay, there we go. Some smaller stones here. Like that. Okay, so I'm just kind of doing variations there, as you can see, like this. So I did mostly large stones, but still basically we're kind of have that same kind of feel as this, where it's really rubble stone, a lot of smaller round type shapes. So basically it's, you know, random kind of shapes, random stones, and then the sizes are just a little different than this. Here, again, we talked about this is just mostly smaller and medium-sized stones with only a few really large ones. We went with more large stones here, and then mostly smaller ones here and there, like that. So I hope you like that look, and we're going to do a simple bit of mixing of colors next. So let's take a quick break. I like to take a quick break once I get my drawing done. I like to just step back, you know, relax for about 5 or 10 minutes. It's up to you. You're the artist. You have to figure out if you want to take a break or not. That's fine by me. Everyone works different too. I'm just kind of sharing with you with, you know, how I do things. I usually get my drawing done first, and then I take a break, and then I'll come back and I'll start painting. So let's do that. But if you just want to continue on painting, that's fine too. So I'll just take a quick break now for 5 or 10 minutes and restart my video up, and we'll get started with the painting. All right, so let's get painting. Let's we'll take our paper towel up. The reason I put that paper towel on there was just so that when I was using my stencil, I didn't get the stencil full of paint and then smudge it onto my paper. That's one of those things in watercolor. Many of you are familiar with this, but if it's your first time here and you haven't maybe watched my videos at all, well, I want to welcome you first of all. If it's your first time here and watching my videos, thank you so much for coming by. I really appreciate that you'll come by and have some trust in me and know that I'm going to try to do my best to share the best things about watercolor that you can rely on and trust in and have fun with. And I'm here week after week, month after month, and year after year doing my videos. So please join in. Please subscribe on the right-hand side below. If you haven't subscribed before and you may be new here, or if it's your very first time, if you subscribe on the right-hand side below, you just won't lose track of me. That's all. It'll just let you know the next time you open up YouTube, I've made a new video, and you won't lose track of me, basically. I'd rather have you kind of have it easy to find me than having to go back and try to search around for my videos and my work and things like that. So that's all. Nothing really too major with that. So I have a water container. So I have basically a Holbein collapsible water container, and I have it over to the right side here. And I also have a sponge, a small kitchen sponge I cut and trimmed to a smaller size. And what I do is I just take that and I just dip it in some water in the water container, and I dampen it up a little bit. And then what I do is I leave it right next to the water container. And this way, when I go in to rinse off my brush, once I rinse off my brush, I can dab it on the sponge a little bit so that it takes off some water. We don't want to have water flooding all over our paper when we're painting. So that's one thing I always talk about on my channel, and you'll notice I mention it a lot. So not to really harp on it too much right now, but so what we're going to do is we're going to try to make this a warm and cool colors. So we're going to go with yellow ochre, cerulean blue, and I think we'll go with some red too. We'll do some alizarin crimson. And so we'll just get a nice mixture of the three colors, yellow ochre, cerulean blue, and then some alizarin crimson. And that'll just give us a nice stone color that we can work with. We can even use some burnt umber too over here. So we'll have a little bit of that darker earth tones. So these are basically our earth tones, the golds, the yellow ochre, and the burnt umber. That's our earth tones. And then you have our, cool colors, like a sky color, cerulean blue, and then some red. And I think if we have these like four colors, just these four colors I think is fine for this color here, for these stones, the rubble stone. So let's start out, and we'll just kind of, I wouldn't take this and kind of just spin it around and homogenize all these colors. I would just leave these colors kind of separate and just, we'll kind of have fun with that. And then I'll just I have a number 4 Da Vinci Maestro travel brush. A number 4 brush is really a good size for this type of work, this type of painting, where we're doing these color swatches. And as you can see, I just did one stone, and I think that looks really good. And that's what we're going to do. And then we're going to, after we're done with kind of like the stones, then we'll go in and we'll do the joints between the stones with darker colors. So you don't have to really worry about too much. It's just a matter of, let's do the larger stones first. And you can kind of favor certain stones with certain colors. Maybe one stone is a little more gold color, like this one here. But I would still put in a little bit of blue. Then this one's maybe a little more brown and blue. Maybe a little more red there. So you can change around the colors of the stones. Subtly though, you want to kind of keep mixing around the colors. I guess what I'm saying is I wouldn't just make one stone just all brown or one stone just all gold. I would take each color and mix them around and add a little bit of each of the colors in there, but you might want to add a predominant color in each one, or so you could make one a little more brown or a little more gold, but I would still keep adding all those beautiful colors in there. So that's what I'm trying to do here. You can kind of see I'm trying to mix all the colors like that. That one's a little more brown. Then I'll mix in a little bit of cerulean blue with the brown, just to kind of mix up some warm and cool colors. When I say warm and cool, I just mean warmer is like the reds and the yellows, the golds, the oranges. I tend to find that the cool colors for me are the blues and the greens. The earth colors or the earth tones and the reds, those to me are warm colors. So I just try to relate to them as in temperature, color temperature. Cool is blue, warm is yellow, gold, red, and that should kind of give us our good mixture of colors. So I hope you're enjoying this so far. Let's keep going. We'll add some more. And again, it really helps to use smaller brushes with this type of a exercise, although you could make these swatches a lot larger. We were saying that these swatches are 2 inch by 3.5, was it? I already lost track myself. So this was, 2 by 3.5. So these are 2 inch by 3.5 inch swatches. And we'll keep working, Maybe this will make a bluer color, light color blue. There we go. And then once you take a light color blue, you can just kind of move that around here and there. Like that. And then maybe a gold color maybe here. And then I rinse my brush off, tap it on the sponge a little bit, and then I can come over here with just a damp brush. So with this swatch, if you can tell when I'm doing this, you can kind of see I don't have really puddly, lots of puddles of colors and water over here on my palette. This is pretty much just like straight paint right out of the palette that I'm using to get my colors. So I'm just using all straight paints. So not much water, and then when I rinse my brush off, I'm drying it off on the sponge, the damp sponge over there. You can also use a tissue. Sometimes I use a tissue too, so I rinse off my brush and maybe tap it on a tissue, dry off some of the paint, or the water, I should say, the water, and then we can go in and we can get those, just using a little bit of color and a little bit of a damp brush, you can get in these beautiful stones here, and you don't have to be flooding out your paper with too much water. That's really a big thing with watercolor, or really like I would say one of the keys to watercolor is monitoring how much water's in your brush. There are certain times when you will want to have a lot of water in your brush. But for this type of swatch right here, you want to avoid a lot of water actually as much as you can. So that's kind of like one of those key things with watercolor. Probably you hear me say this a lot. And if you're new here, don't worry about it. You'll hear me in the future videos when you're watching along. You'll hear me talk about it. But the key to watercolor really is knowing how much water to put in your brush. If we were painting like a really big sky with light blue colors of washes of color with a blue sky on a big sheet of paper, we're going to need a lot of puddly colors here, a lot of water in the palette, and tons of water. Something like, let's grab a larger brush just to demonstrate what I'm saying. So here, if you wanted to make a sky wash, I would get lots of water with my brush and fill in my, like that. You see how that's like puddle, lots of puddles of water? That's perfect for a big sky wash on a painting that has a big sky, and if you're using a large sheet of paper. Right now we're using smaller swatches here, smaller section. We're doing actually like a little small composition here. So we want to avoid this at all costs, these big puddles like this. We want to just be using basically straight paint with a damp brush. So we're just taking a damp brush with straight paint right out of the palette. And there's a little bit of water in the, I usually spritz my paints with a little bit of a spritzer bottle before I start painting. So that's where there's a little bit of water in there, but not much. And then there we go. Look, you've got it handled. You've got it covered. You know what you're doing now. You're realizing that, wow, if we're doing a small swatch like this, we don't want puddles of water. We want just straight paint with a damp brush, and we can get everything handled and done, and that will be that. And the same will go for these cement joints. All right, this is giving me a hassle now. And now I'll just go around and kind of have fun filling in some of these stones here. Some are darker stones. We're making them a little darker than what we see here. These are a little lighter stones, but that's okay. You can make your colors, your stones like darker colors, more vibrant colors if you want. You can make them really light like this too, with barely any color. So we'll keep going here, and just, again, I'm just picking up any colors, any and all colors, just to get my stones done here. So, and I'm pretty much almost there. Rinse off my brush, dry off the brush on a tissue a little bit, go back in, get some color. So some gold color there. Here, up here, like that, like that. So you can kind of mix up your colors. As you can see, we have some really good color variation here. And I'll just round out the rest of them with that cool color blue here. And look at that, how good that looks. Beautiful, rich looking colors. Our stonework is looking beautiful. Now the thing is, we have to let this dry 100%. There's 2 ways you can let your swatch right now dry before we go in and do these darker joints. The cement joints are actually raked out of the stonework. So if you can imagine, when we put these stone walls together, there's 2 ways you can actually put your cement joints in. You can actually, one, put together your stone wall with all your cement, and then you can carve out with a small tool and carve out the joints so that all you see are like crevices. And that looks kind of cool, and that's how they did this. So that's how you get those dark shadows in all those areas around the stones. So each individual stone, if you can see, when you carve out the cement, the mortar joints, the cement joints around the stones, once you're done putting the stones together and you carve it out, the cement joints, you'll get that really beautiful shadow around the stones. And that's what we're going to do here. We're going to make these dark shadows around all these small stones. The other thing you could do is, and we'll do it in these other compositions here, we'll show you what cement joints left in the stone looks like. So those are 2 different methods that stonemasons will use. They'll carve out the joints sometimes and make it look like it's got deep cutouts where the cement joints are in between all the stones. That leaves you a beautiful dark shadow like that, as you see all the way around all these stones. Or you can leave them all filled in with cement, and that makes it look kind of like a smoother, flat wall kind of look. So we'll do one of those swatches next where we'll leave the cement joints in there. But for this one here, we're going to, again, do the darker shadows like we see here to kind of give us that look of the joints being raked out or carved out of the stone. Once it starts to dry a little bit, the masons will carve out the cement around the joints. All right, so we'll come right back and we'll put in some of our darker shadows on here, but we have to let this dry 100%, and there's 2 ways you can do that. One, you could take a blow dryer right now and blow dry off this little small section here of our swatch for maybe a minute or 2 with a blow dryer. It should dry it enough that it'll be 100% dry. Or you have to wait like maybe an hour to 2 hours until this dries, and then you can go in and start doing your darker colors that we're going to show you how to do next, to go in between your stones here. Okay, so I hope that's totally, I hope I explained that kind of clearly, because it is an important part. Whether you're going to, let's just say this, if you have a blow dryer and you can use a blow dryer for maybe, again, 1 or 2 minutes, and that should dry off your paper enough that you can go back in and do in between all of these stones with the darker cement shadowing of the joints between the stones. Or if you just want to say, you know what, I'm not going to use a blow dryer, I'm going to go take a break, or I'm going to come back the next day, that's fine. This should take about 1 to 2 hours to dry once you've put these paint washes on your stones. And then once you let it dry again, either 1 to 2 hours, check it with your fingers, touch it first before you go in and start painting, make sure it's 100% dry. Or again, if you're using a blow dryer, that'll work great. Okay, all right, so let's come back in just a minute and we'll get started again. All right, so we're coming right back, and now we're just going to start filling in our joints. Actually, we're going to be putting in the shadows of the spaces between all the stones right here. First thing I would do is I would take some French ultramarine blue, burnt umber, French ultramarine blue, burnt umber, and a little bit of alizarin crimson. And that should give us a wonderful, beautiful dark. Like that. Just like that. Beautiful dark. And then we can just grab a tissue like this. Once we load up our brush with plenty of paint, you can dry off a little bit of paint on your tissue just so you don't have too much on there. And then we'll just start trying out our darks around the stones. And I think that is looking fine. There we go. So we're off and running with our darks. You have to have, of course, that sharp point on your brush. So if you don't have a brush with a sharp point, you're probably going to have to eventually try to have a brush. I always tend to say have a brush or two that have a really good fine point that you can use. When you have a composition like this or a painting where you need some really good sharp points on the brush. So you can kind of see, I'm just going to start working around all those small areas where there's the cement joints between the stones. And then once I get done with that, I will probably try to use a damp brush and kind of smooth out some of these darks. But so that's the fun part of it. This is really going to build your skills with your paintbrush skills. So what I do is I rest my hand right on the paper. I rest my hand right on the pad of paper that I'm working on. I'm using a gummed watercolor pad. And I rest my hand right on the paper, and then I have a nice stable, my hands resting on them, and then I just take my brush and I just move it around. And that usually works fine. I can do all the fine details with that kind of technique of resting my hand on the paper and just carefully working the brush around like this. And you're going to have a fun, beautiful time doing this. And it really will do even some more interesting shadowing once we're done just getting the basic raked out joints here that are actually carved out. And that's why we're making these dark shadows here. If these joints and these stones were just like cement right flush with the stone, the face of the stones, it would be like white. You'd see the white cement joints, or the grayish white. Could be gray, could be white. They make color joints too. So you can even make your cement joints any color you want. They make any color you want actually in cement joints. So sometimes masons will use dyed cement when they're when they're doing their stonework, their cement. So we used to use all kinds of colors. You know, they have beautiful colors of cement joints, tan, orange. Of course, gray is the standard cement joint without putting any dye in it. You can make your cement joints white if you want. You have to use a special cement mortar or cement type of joint that can become white. There's black. I've seen, black cement, brown cement. Those are the main colors I think I've seen out there that they use. Orange is very popular. Black is very popular. Gray is, of course, the standard. That's just no dye in the cement, just standard gray. And so we're just happily going along here, making our cement joints kind of dark, denoting dark shadows. So these joints have been raked out with a tool. And look at that, we pretty much have all of these joints completed. We just worked efficiently and got our joints in like that. We rinse off our brush, dry off a little bit of and then you can kind of make some, with a damp brush, you can make some areas here with some shadows. Maybe the light's coming from up here. You can take some of this here, like that. And then you can make some shadowing on the stones. But these have to be 100% dry, these stones, when you do these shadowing effects. Like that. There might be some shadows under here too. Yeah, I think we have it. I think this looks really good. I think you kind of have the general idea of how that is coming along. The dark cement joints that have been carved out. You can add some bluish, dark blue too to kind of change up, because I know we kind of use we use that dark we mixed up, but you can also add a little bit of blue if you want to make a little more of a cooler blue, like a cooler dark color, just to kind of add some variety to the darks that you have in your cement joints that you've raked out. But I think we have the main idea of this, and I think it looks good. All right, now let's get on to our next drawing. We're going to start with another swatch, colors, beautiful stone swatch here of our stone facade material. We'll come right back. We'll just take a quick break. I'm going to try to dial up on my phone the next one. Actually, we'll do it now. Let's see if I can find this now. There it is. This is polygonal. Polygonal stonework, stone facade material. So basically the stones are cut in polygonal type shapes. You can kind of see it, pointy, angular shapes. This also too is got the same idea where these are very, very tightly fit stones. So what they did was they cut these stones and they made them fit very, very close together without any cement joints. So basically they didn't have any space in between the stones where there's cement. So we're going to do the same idea. We're going to try to make these without any cement joints. You can see the joints here that we made were that dark mortar type, carving out the mortar around the stones, and we got that shadowing in there. Now we're going to create this one with no cement joints, so it's going to be a little bit different, but these are more round rubble type stones. Now we're going to do polygonal next. So we'll do it down here actually. Polygonal stone facade. And you can make notes once you're done with your swatches and you peel off all your tape. You can get kind of fancy. You can take a ruler, put a little bit of a level line underneath there with a light pencil line, and then you can write down your different style stone facade materials that you have on here. And this way you can always refer back to it again if you need to. And then that should be fine. You'll have a wonderful organized time of things where you don't have to really go searching on the internet to find things. You'll find you have your folder with your, maybe let's say you're going to call that your masonry materials for your paintings when you're doing, again, your city scenes, your landscape scenes with like barns and buildings and things like that. Anywhere where you'll see these type of materials, you have that in your folder. And then when you go to your folder, you already have the style of stone that you need to look at, and you also have that you've done the exercise, you've done the composition already, you've done the colors and everything, and then when you look at it, you go, oh, I remember exactly how I did that. You'll refer right back to it, and you'll be right there. It'll click for you, and you'll say, oh, I know how to do this. I've already done this. I remember I used the colors. I can see the colors. I know how we did the joints between the stones, and you'll be right away able to go right in and do a beautiful rendition of some kind of facade material with stonework on your painting, versus having to recreate the wheel and then start figuring out, or just taking a shot at it and saying, oh, let me try to figure it out and paint a painting. And already here you've tried it, you've done it once, you've got it, you save your compositions here, and this way when you go in to do it, you're 100% ahead of everything. You're 100% ahead of the game. You've got everything planned out ahead of time. All right, let's come right back. We'll start on our polygonal stone facade material. Okay, so now let's get started with our polygonal stone facade material. And we're just going to use this as our basic guide. So I'm going to take this here and just start to work. I'll just probably start over here on the left and work my way over this way and see how it kind of goes on over this way. So the first thing I want to do is I see this piece is here and it goes like that. And it comes down like this. And then this piece goes up here. That's that gold piece there. And it goes down like this, and then it comes down here. And then there's a small chunk of stone in there. And there's another stone there. And then there's another rectangular piece of stone here. And then there's another piece that kind of comes up like this, goes down like that. And then let's come back up here. Let's kind of stick over here for now. And there's another there's a stone there. And then, let's see, there's a piece here that goes like so. Like that. Okay, and then there's this there. And there's a chunk of stone over here that's kind of like that. And then this goes over here like this. Then there's a few smaller pieces of stone there. So I'm just kind of working slowly here, trying to get the feel of this. And this is a smaller piece there, and another smaller piece there. And then this one goes over here like this, and like that. And there's another piece there, another piece there. And that piece is a large piece over here, like that. All right, so that looks like... Yeah, I'll erase a little bit here and there. All right, I think that looks pretty good. I tried to really stick with what I was looking at here. We have the drawing done. Maybe I'll erase up top here. We'll just go right up like that. And you can see there's a couple small pieces of stone here and there, just little bits of stone. Maybe we'll make a smaller chunk there. And that's really it. The rest are kind of larger pieces. So this is mostly larger pieces, kind of like this one. But here, these cement joints are like tight. They're tightly fitting together. There's no mortar joints showing here, so we're not going to have any mortar joints at this rate here. Okay, so now we can get right into the painting. And then what I'll do is what I like to do is, let's just start with some fresh, clean colors. So let's take our, I usually take my water container and I dip in a little bit of paper towel. And I just use a damp paper towel. And I just try to lift up all the paint that we used before. And I try to conserve on my paper towels, so I'll tear them in quarters. And there we go. Okay, that's much better that we have a fresh, clean palette to work on. And then this one here, we can kind of see there's a lot of browns, golds, rusts, some reds, some blue. So pretty much similar to what we had before over here, except lighter. We're going to make these lighter. So now, that's how we're going to make this lighter. We're just going to add a tiny bit of color to this palette here. So we have the blue, cerulean blue. We have some yellow ochre here, some red, some alizarin crimson, like that. And maybe a little bit of burnt sienna up here too. And I think that should be fine. Let's try that. Let's see how this works. Okay, now we'll just make this lighter. We're not going to make this as dark as we made these colors. So I'm just going to go around, a little bit of blue in there, rinse off the brush, take a tissue, dry off the brush, damp brush, just like that. And we make that a lot lighter. Can you see how we made a very, very light wash there? Not too. We have a very, very tiny little bit of paint on our palette right now. That's the key. And a damp brush, not a wet brush. Remember, we were kind of talking about that in the beginning of the video. There's not much. And a little bit of gold. So we have gold and burnt sienna. Rusty kind of color. That looks really good. Like that. And then we have some bluish gold. Very light though. I would say just a damp brush and a tiny little bit of paint. That's all you need. That's all you need. Very light washes, very little color. Just a tiny bit of color. And that's all I'm doing is I'm just trying to refrain from too much water or too much paint. I'm keeping a damp brush the whole time. Only a tiny bit of color. Mix around the colors. Maybe there's a couple darker stones here and there. You can do a few dark ones. There is a few darker stones. I will kind of strategically put them in there. This one's kind of darker. Maybe one over here, maybe a little bit of burnt umber in there. One there, maybe over here. Damp brush. A little bit of colors, warm and cool everywhere. I'm trying to avoid just doing like one color in any one stone. So every stone that I paint, I'm going to try to mix in a little bit of warm and a little bit of cool, whether that's red or brown. There we go. We've done it. We've actually gotten this completed efficiently. Again, we remember the only difference between this first swatch that we did, this first stone facade material swatch that we did, was we used darker, more rich colors. We used more paint. That's all we did, was we used more paint, but we used the same technique on this one with keeping that damp brush and not a lot of water. Actually, no, hardly any water at all, just a damp brush. We rinse off our brush, we dry off the excess water of our brush on a tissue or a sponge or paper towel. Then we go over and grab our paint and get a little bit of paint on the palette. So on this here swatch, we just remembered that we added very little color, hardly at all, any color. See how light that is? Before, up top, when we did this swatch, our colors were a little more rich, right? We used a little bit thicker color, more rich color. We used more color there, more paint, I should say, right? So we used more exciting, thick paint up here for this painting, for this swatch. Then when we came down here, we used very little. See, just a tiny bit there. Look. Perfect. See, that's easy enough. You got it. All right, so you've already got through these two beautifully done here. Let's take the time of just taking a break now, quick. Then we'll get our last swatch in. And the last one is kind of interesting, too. It's going to be a little different than these two. We're going to do coursed ashlar, granite ashlar. So it's going to be coursed ashlar, which ashlar is a style of stonework, the design of the stonework. And we're going to use a granite color. Maybe we'll use like a really dark black. That'll look really nice, a nice dark black ashlar coursed. So we're going to have courses, and we're going to show you how you're going to do the coursings for your next stone swatch. And this is a beautiful, the next one's a really beautiful one, probably my favorite one out of all of these. And we'll see how it goes, but I'm sure we're going to have fun doing it, okay? All right, so we're going to be right back. And again, I always mention, if you haven't subscribed, why not subscribe? It's on the right-hand side below. You click the subscribe button. Also, there's a little button. It's like a notification bell button. If you click on the very top bell in the notification, when you click on subscribe, it'll give you the option to click on the bells there. You click on the very top bell, and what that means is just each time I make a new video, you'll be alerted in your YouTube homepage. So when you open up YouTube the next time, you'll see that my video will be there waiting for you, and then you can check it out. If you like it, you're going to join along and paint along with us. And if maybe not, just at least watch it. You should at least watch the videos. You're going to learn a ton of things when you watch my videos. I always promise everybody that when you watch videos, you do learn a tremendous amount about the watercolor medium. It will help you tremendously. I always have been telling everyone since I've been on YouTube, on my channel, that I watched thousands upon thousands and thousands of hours of YouTube videos, as well as DVDs that I purchased of watercolor artists. And that really gave me a really big advantage. It really helped me to learn a lot about watercolors just by relaxing and watching. I would be, if I'm tired at the end of the day when I'm coming home from work, I put on the DVD player and put in or I go on YouTube and I put on some videos and I just watch videos, and you can learn a ton just from watching. You don't have to actually be painting every time, but try to paint every time you can, every time you have the free time to practice and grab your brushes and your pencils and things. But I always mention that on my videos. Please watch lots of videos, my videos, anyone else's videos you find that are interesting on YouTube, YouTube creators that are doing watercolors. And of course, you also have a whole bunch of DVDs you can go out there and research online. You can purchase on Amazon or on any of the great websites that they have out there online. So, all right, let's come right back in about 2 minutes, and we'll start on the last swatch, and it's going to be fun. We're going to do something a little different than we have done here so far, but you will notice that it's going to be interesting and fun and good color. And I'm just going to do a little bit of, once in a while you can dab on some of your, you can dab a little bit of water on some of your swatches, just a little bit, and use a paper towel and blot up a little bit of you can soften up the way something looks sometimes by just dabbing on some water with your fingertip, like that. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work maybe as good as we would think it would be, but I think that looks good though, actually. little bit of a smudging here and there. I think looks good. Maybe a little bit over here. There we go. All right, that looks good. I think that looks good. I hope you'll try doing a little bit of dabbing of water and blotting a little bit with your tissue. Really does sometimes help, sometimes, you know, something to look a little more softer looking versus really hard with a lot of dark lines and too much impactful looking kind of composition. You add a little bit of water, you blot up a little bit of the water and paint, and you can kind of have that faded look, kind of like faded jeans. Don't faded jeans look great? You can sometimes think of it the same way when you're doing watercolors, if you can just mellow out a couple sections here and there and dab it up with some paper towels or tissues, and it'll make it look like those beautiful faded jeans you have, okay? All right, let's get started on our last swatch. All right, so we're going to do our last swatch now. We're doing stone facade materials, of course. What I'm going to do is take my pencil, and I'm going to use a ruler for this one. This one is similar to what I wanted to do, but I couldn't find the one I was thinking of that I'm familiar with. So what I'm going to do is do something. This will be sort of a guide for us to kind of look at on our phone, but what I wanted to do was the coarse ashlar. So we're going to do this here. So that we're going to have one line like that and a cement joint like so. Then we're going to do another one here and another one here like so. So basically we did just like 3 courses of stone with a cement joint in between the 3 courses, all right? And then we're going to have some vertical joints. So I might do these by hand. There's going to be a joint there. There's going to be a joint on an angle here. And then there's going to be maybe one more up here, like so. Okay, just the basic idea of it. Similar to this, but a little different. Okay, so now we said we were going to make this black granite. So that means we're going to, we just drew in our cement joints. And I kind of made it really like one course of the stone is a little thicker, a little wider. You can kind of see it's a little taller. And then these other 2 are about equal distance. So I think I kind of went about 1/3. So I sort of went like 1/3 up here. And so the first third I made one large stone. And then I'm not sure if that's quite 1/3. That might be a little more than 1/3. Let's say almost halfway. Not quite halfway. But in any case, if I went 1/3 here, 2/3, 3/3. So if we make our first stone a little bit taller than 1/3, so let's say this is 1/3 here, and this is 1/3 here. We made our first stone taller than 1/3 over here, and then we took the rest of that distance and then we put 2 more courses in, which are a little thinner. So, and you can work it out any way you want. Nothing really too critical. And so we're going to take our water, and then we're just going to get some black paint, some ivory black, and some also some Pines gray. Okay, so we have some black, ivory black, and Payne's gray. Maybe we're going to mix in a little bit of French ultramarine blue to that too, and then maybe even some burnt sienna over here. So we'll try to mix a little bit of a different color to this black, but we definitely want to key on that it's going to be black. And then we're just going to go across here with the straight paint. We want to make this dark paint. And I'm just going to make sure I'm staying right underneath that line of the cement joint. And then I scrub around a little bit. We can leave a little bit of that that. So this one is kind of simple. We're just really painting each granite stone here right up to the tape, and we're leaving that cement joint there, and we'll make that cement joint a little bit of a gray color. And we'll mix up some more. I might use a little bit of, I use a little extra water here. Not too much water, but a little bit extra so we can kind of cover this area. And I'm resting my hand on my table here so that my hand is very stable. I'm always resting the palm of my hand on my board that I'm working on. I guess I avoid like holding my hand up in the air and just kind of trying to paint that way. I always have my hand almost like attached to the table that I'm working on, or the pad of paper, whatever it is. My hand is always resting on the on the table for the most part, most times. Especially for this type of kind of subject matter. We're doing kind of detailed subject matter here. Fine detailed subject matter, so that means we need stability with our hand resting on the table as we go. And then we're already coming along beautifully. We're on our top stone now here. And the careful part is going around the cement joints. That is it. We are almost 100% complete here. We'll do a little bit of cement joint work once this dries. Again, you can use a blow dryer to dry off this now. Once we're done with this, you can use a blow dryer to dry off this paint right now of the stones, the black granite stones, and I'll do a couple little, I'll just use my nail a little bit just to kind of give it that look of granite where it's kind of got those little speckles. Little speckles of granite crystals in the stone. And again, you can kind of see it's similar to this. You can also you could take a paper towel, blot a few spots, dab a little bit of water on there. Go back in and grab some paint and dab it back on again. If you've lifted up too much paint, you can kind of you can have some fun with this and experiment with different kinds of washes and trying to get some different textures going. You can go back in and grab some paint. If it doesn't look good, you can always go over. And the fun thing with stone is you can't go wrong with stonework because it's very rough and abrasive and kind of, it doesn't look at all out of place to have some rough looking washes on it, So you can do some experimenting with it, have some fun with it. Okay, so what we're going to do now is just let this dry 100%, and then we'll do some cement joints here with some color on those. You can kind of see in this photograph here on my phone, it is a little bit of a grayish color cement, so that's what we're going to try to go for. We're going to try to get some of a grayish color. I think it'll be really easy to recreate that grayish color there on those stones. Okay, so we'll be right back. Okay, so we're back now, and let's make our stone, the mortar joints in our stone there, a little bit of a grayish color. These are stark white paper right now. Maybe we could add a little bit of that cerulean blue we see here with a little bit of the brown. Maybe that might look pretty good, almost like a greenish blue. That might look good like that. Maybe a little bit of cobalt blue in there too, or French ultramarine. That might look better. Yeah, French ultramarine in there in a little bit. You got to experiment, but I think that looks pretty good. Let's just kind of go over with this kind of a bluish green. And what we can do is get that wash on there where the joints are. Like that. And that's it. And then you can also take a tissue and blot up. There we go. I think that looks really good. It's got a tiny little bit of a bluish gray look to it, but we didn't leave it too dark so that it would look off, you know. That looks like a good cement color right there. A little bit of that bluish green kind of look to it. We can even add a touch of green to it. We can use some sap green. A little bit of sap green in there. That might look good. And then when we do that, then we lift it up again too. We can blot up a little bit. Perfect. I think that looks just right. All right. So we could do another little bit of detail work here. I think we were kind of saying before that I left that pencil line there, but we didn't go in and do some of these darker shadows here. But you can go in and do maybe a few more darker darks in here. But I would go really, really super thin with these here. So maybe you would do a couple darker, but then maybe leave just pencil line in some areas. Maybe it's better off just leaving it pencil. I'm not sure how great this looks. This looks all right. I think it's good to kind of have this little bit of a darker line here. And again, you could leave just the pencil line there. That might be fine. But I did decide to just go in and do a little more detail here with the darker dark. And that's about it. I think that's fine. You could also do some blotting too once you do that. But I hope you had a fun time here. We're doing our stone swatches. You can't go wrong having a great time doing some of these things ahead of time. You keep them in a folder and you just label your folder. Maybe, you know, you have your masonry folder. We'll just lift these up. And again, you can relabel them. You know, take your time, relabel them. Maybe we'll label them. So I'll show you how I would label mine. But look how good that looks. Once you lift off your tape, you have a good professional, clean, crisp looking bit of swatches here. And then what I would do is I'll lift this up here. That was our measurement. 2 inch by 3.5 inch was the size of these rectangles that we created. So the next thing I would do is just real simply, I would take a ruler with a pencil and I would just put it underneath, give myself a little bit of room, put a small pencil line underneath each swatch, like that. Over here the same thing, leave some room under there. Then I will put a second line above it, so that I give myself 2 lines to write within so that my lines, my writing stays nice and neat. Like that, and another one here. Like that. So now I have 2 lines underneath each of these swatches, and then I use a Sharpie marker. And then I would just take this and we would kind of just go back to what we were talking about before. This one was rubble stone. So I would just do some like that. This one was this one is rubble. I would say this is polygonal. Polygonal stone. And this one is ashlar. So this is black, granite, ashlar style. Now I just have to find my phone here. I am not someone that goes out to the book clubs and I have to look up things online. Thankfully we have some great the internet is a great help here. We can look up how to spell things. Okay, I'm going to do a search quick. I think it's AR, ashlar. And it is, yeah. That's what I thought. Ashlar. There we go. And once we use our Sharpie, the Sharpie dries really super quick. So then you can just erase off the lines of the pencil lines. You never see them, and this way you have really good, neat writing underneath your swatches. Like that. I would never erase though if you have any wet paint anytime. Never use an eraser anywhere near damp or wet paint, because I've done that many times where it really makes a terrible mess on the paper. But this is actually fantastic. This is what we want. We get our swatches in, our facade materials, and I'm glad you joined me here. We're going to do more videos like this going in the future. I know many of you have written to me on emails and said, Chris, can you please do more of these type of videos with swatches of different construction materials and things like that? We use them in our landscape paintings and in our city scenes and things like this. So this is kind of like a number of you have asked me to do this again, so I'm really happy to do it. We'll do more like this too as well. And thanks again for coming by, for watching. Happy painting, everyone. Enjoy the watercolor journey. It's a really fun journey. Take your time. Takes time to learn watercolor. It takes years to get really good at it. But if you're just taking your time and following along step by step, week after week, month after month, and year after year, you will definitely learn it. And you'll be learning it really well. I cover all the fundamentals every time I come on to YouTube and do a new video. I'm always covering the fundamentals of watercolor, so you don't have to worry. You're going to get the real solid basic nuts and bolts of watercolor, of how you need to kind of be working with it, the brushes, the paints, the water, all of that good stuff, and you'll be, before you know it, creating some really good looking paintings. Okay? All right, stick with me here on my channel. Again, if you haven't subscribed, on the right hand side below, you'll see that. And also too, I have a new book out. If you want to check out my new book, you just see in this description below in the video, Watercolor Methods for Success. It's my new book. It's got tons of great, beautiful paintings, all different kinds of things. Like we did city scenes, cityscapes, landscapes, flowers, portrait paintings, boat paintings, you name it. We have everything in that book. You can kind of just use it as a guide. It's got great informational content in there, and it's got all of my papers, pens, pencils, brushes, everything I use, all my art materials and art tools and supplies. It's all in there too as well. So you'll have a whole, almost like a field study book or a guide for all the things that I use in watercolor that I use on a daily basis. Okay? All right. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.